in under 30 seconds.
Okay, you don't have anybody in here as far as I can tell. Why is it?
There's a few people watching. Hey folks. Alrighty, let's just jump right into the nitty gritty. Hey everybody.
Oh, hi.
Well, Daily Dose, this is going to be a short stream. This isn't going to be one of our rolling along for 2, 3, 4 hours like our weeklies, our normal weeklies are. I'm just going to touch base on a couple of hot subjects this weekend. It seems like bed adhesion and bed leveling is coming up, and that seems to be the consistent issue that people are having. And we'll give it just a little bit for a few more people to show up. So we'll just shoot the shit for right now, wait for a few people in chat to say hello. And while nobody's here real quick, I'm going to grab something. I'll be right back too.
I might as well advertise when nobody's on, right?
Hey, Minnie, you're going to have to pardon us if we
trying to figure out how to say it before I said hello.
That's where the hesitation was coming from. We're just going to call you Manny for short,
Manny,
if that's okay.
Manny for short. What's up, Manny? Oh. Let's see.
I'm just getting started here a little bit and stretching a little bit. Oh, Manny, duh. You know, I am so down on my game speak. I should have caught that. Hey, Roman.
Yeah, now I see it.
I see it now, too.
It just didn't click. It's Maniac. There we go. I don't have the lead speak anymore.
Hey, Roman, what's the weather like in Hawaii there right now? Roman's from the same neck of the woods in Hawaii where my wife and son are right now.
Cool.
He's been diving in here lately to updating and upgrading. He just did a SKR board. Which printer did you do that in, Roman? Yeah, I'm down by the York area, Maniac. They threatened snow, but we didn't get any. It's kind of getting a little bit worried. It's like, this is freaking May, for Christ's sakes. It did get cold, though.
We've had nothing but rain. And then it dropped weird for a while, and now it's like threatening to be nice as soon as the wife goes back to work.
Isn't that the way it always happens, though?
Yeah, because the whole time she's been off, it's been crappy. I feel bad.
Well, we're still on bed leveling and adhesion. I seen a newer user over the last few days um, whose plight is similar to not too few people, and I see this across all of the groups. It's not just in the artillery groups, and you hear us people who seem to not have any issues all the time always saying, you got to go back. It's all the basic stuff, and it is. Um, One of the things I've found here lately, the um, flatness of the beds, the glass beds on, and I'm going to talk about the artillery printers in particular here. Everybody seems to default to, the beds are wavy as hell. They're wavy as hell. Um, I've probably seen a few dozen of the composite glass beds coming through here, and I think the worst one that I've seen was probably 15, 18 thousandths of an inch off. That was after heating the beds up and everything. So um, the complaint that people are having that, they can't get anything to stick. They can't get anything to stick. Um, we've had to deal with that with just about every print bed. Um,
In existence, yeah, pretty
yeah,
much.
I mean, even early on, let's take the Prusas. Let's go back in time to the MK2 days. The mesh bed leveling, or their black magic as they call it, um, system that they have using the Pinda probe and everything like that is what accounts for those beds that are slightly off. Well, you say the foil trick. What exactly is the foil trick you're talking about there, Roman?
He's using them as shims, I'd say.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Was you fold them over to the microns you need and then level off your bed that way with another surface, depending. If you got a magnetic bed, it usually works easier, I suppose.
Yeah, very similar to the hardtack method that you did with the PEI sheet installation that you did on yours just here recently.
I actually didn't physically do it because I didn't need to. I just showed people how to do it.
Okay.
Just I want to make it clear because I really didn't shim my bed. I didn't need to because my
Well,
glass was flat.
well, we have a lot of users that, for whatever reason, they're having difficulty uh, getting adhesion, and they're claiming, from one corner of the bed to the other, it'll stick on one corner. Um, when your beds aren't that far off, um, usually your first layer compensates for around close to 10 or 15 thousandths of an inch anyways. Um, yeah, yeah, sir. Fundamentally, I mean, I know the people who are having this problem are probably sick and tired of hearing it, but you're going to have to hear it over and over and over again. Let me get something pulled up real quick here.
Well, and that's the thing, especially when you're newer. I mean, you don't understand the concept of how to level it. I mean, someone telling you how it's supposed to feel and how you're going to notice it is going to be two different things. So it's like apples and oranges. How I feel it or how I'm trying to explain it to you doesn't mean you're going to get it right away. I mean, I try and tell people that like you almost like you have a piece of sand on the edge of your nozzles, how you want that paper to feel. Like you're rolling like a little piece of sand is the best way I can explain it.
Yeah, people may be surprised. I use construction paper.
So you go
Cons
thicker,
well, the construction paper has a kind of like a spongy feel to it,
right?
and I really crank down on it.
Okay.
So as far as equivalents go, Zier just mentioned using a Walmart or a what was it, a Walgreens receipt. Um, Thermal paper, if that's the type of receipt that I'm thinking of, is really super thin, and that's fine too. But you're gonna encounter with that. My take on it, I've used thermal paper too. Um, if you get the amount of drag that I'm used to putting on, say, like with the construction paper that I use, that's going to be almost too close in some cases. And um, the stock beds that most of you are using on the artilleries, the beds aren't flat, they have a texture to them. And if you look really, really close at that composite material that's on the top of the bed, it's got divots in it. And if you
Like a
just,
golf ball would be almost.
yeah, if you just happen to land your nozzle in one of those divots and you're using some really thin paper like that, um, then when you go back and you start printing, you might getting layers peeling up, and in effect, what it's doing, it's dragging across the print. And no matter who you are, no matter at what stage you think you're at with this stuff, you're just going to have to learn to get a feel for it. One of the things that people aren't taking into consideration, you get something else pulled up here. I got to find out where I put the image. There we go. This is a older version 1 bed and spring. So disregard the knob that's on it. I thought I had a picture up here, and at the last minute, just before the stream, I couldn't find the picture, so I grabbed a different one. That spring right there is not compressed enough.
Nope, too high.
That is way too high. And when you first get your printer and you get that thing out of the box and you're getting ready to set everything up, those coils, you want those coils practically touching when your extruder and your nozzle is at 0. Okay, so how you can adjust that, the newer versions of the printer, most have a mounted or a set point for where the Z sensor is. You get that little guy up here.
Which is annoying. Just gonna say it.
I got an image floating around somewhere. I thought I did. Yeah, there we go. Your Z sensor lately it's got a hole drilled into the frame, and that screw mounts right into the hole. There has been a little bit of variance as far as exactly where that hole's landing, and just by taking a T-nut, which I'm told lately the newer printers are having a extra screw and a T-nut included in the package. Can't say everybody's going to get that or everybody will have that. If you don't, you have to dig up an alternative. It's a M3, I believe.
Yeah, M3. I want to say I don't remember what the length is on it, but you just grab the shortest one you can find.
Well, Roman, with these printers, anyways, if using a bed jack is something that you want to do, I mean, you can do it, but hopefully your bed's not that far off. I have a thing about thermal expansion and everything like that, and you're going to have to be able to adjust that in some way, shape, or form, because as your bed heats up over time, your bed's going to bow up. I mean, if you do it cold, okay, and then you heat your bed up, it's going to start bowing upwards. If you do it hot, um, you're probably going to have to wait until your bed is completely heated up before you start printing. Um, the mesh bed leveling that I introduced into the advanced firmware for these machines um, takes care of that for the most part. The other thing too is some people are finding uh, Taz can pretty much explain that better because I've never bothered to do that. Just about all the beds, the original glass beds that I've got came in pretty flat. The newer machines that I got in with the uh, composite beds have been pretty flat too. I haven't had that issue with them, and maybe I'm lucky or whatever. But you want to explain how you heat that up and then?
We call it heat cycling. So what you do is you loosen up all four corners to as far as you can go without taking off the wheels. Ramp it up to 80 C. So heat it up to 80, let it sit there for a little bit, 5, 6 minutes. Let it completely cool down. Ramp it back up to 80 again for a second time. Let that cool down. Now bring it down and start leveling it at 60 C. That should pull out any type of dip or upward protrusion in your plate. It's going to heat cycle it enough that it'll even it out and flatten out your bed properly. Now, you still may have a slight dip here or there, but that's where the mesh bed leveling or just actually leveling is going to take care of that. Just trying to shim it or try and put something underneath the center, you're going to wind up eventually where that causes the exact same problem you're already having, or it's going to be too high in the center. Once the heat starts actually taking its form on your stress. And the other thing is to make sure you have those bed springs 50%. If you're above 50%, you're still allowing the plate too much leeway when it heat cycles. Even when you're just basically heating it up, it's going to dip, flip back up, dip, flip back up, because there's not enough compression on the springs. So the springs need to be around 50%, or else you're not going to get a decent level. And that's why I don't like the fact when they mounted the sensor, it makes it harder for people to get there, especially if they don't realize if they don't have that little screw to make that adjustable on the Z, you can't get your zero down close enough to make it work. So that's why I think they started including a smaller screw and T-nut in there again, because they were getting tired of having to replace beds that weren't bowed as much as everyone thinks they are. It's because you didn't set it properly. The mounts are set with epoxy at the factory. So by the time when they start out testing them, it's all level for them. By the time it goes into shipping and gets here or to your location, it's had time to cure and pull those. So what you're trying to do when you're heat cycling also is get those to go back to where they were at and move over a little bit.
Yeah, you can see in the image that I got, you can see those epoxied plates through the glass in the image that I'm showing right there. But point is when you zero your printer out and it's at home, you'll want to adjust your Z sensor so that you have your springs almost, not completely, but almost fully compressed. That way, when you back up, you can back it off a little bit, and you're guaranteed to having enough tension on that for going through and doing the actual bed leveling process. You see the same thing here. And getting back to that, once you adjust that Z sensor and you alleviate the issue of having some sloppy springs. I've had a couple of user machines come through here with the default placement of the Z sensor, and they were too loose right out the door. Something else that's been coming up on a semi-regular basis that I mentioned the other night too, that people aren't taking into consideration. Yeah, they say they've gone over and they've checked everything for things being tight, but the screws that hold the whole extruder assembly onto the bracket. Let me see if I can get a picture of that up here. No guarantees. Everybody's going to be questioning why they're seeing Rocky Horror in the background.
Right.
Yeah, in this little image right here, this plate is the X carriage plate right there that the whole extruder assembly mounts to. And behind the stepper motor, there's 3 screws that hold the whole assembly on. Those have been loose. I've even had them loosen up on one of the machines here. And this will also lead to problems in some cases with some of the things that people are calling Z-banding or uneven flow.
Yep.
Some people are having issues with the nozzles dragging across their infill and things like that. And I've even caught myself telling people, go ahead and set Z-hop in your slicer without forgetting to mention that, you really ought to check those screws. On a couple of customer machines that I've had come through here, those screws were loose. Loose enough to actually allow just enough play in the extruder. So that's something to take into consideration too. And then
the other thing with the noise being reported in there is some of those bearings have not been the best. I found 3 on both my printers that have been like sandpaper I've had to replace. So that can be a factor too, as well. Because if the bearings don't run smooth, you're going to get that artifacts and everything else into your prints. It needs to have a nice smooth on the tensioner, and on the actual hob gear itself needs to have a nice smooth run.
Yeah, so some people, okay, after everything is all said and done, fundamentally, the image that's up right now, that's the standard 5-point or 4 corners, if you want to call it that, leveling that comes on the factory menu for your printer. I've seen more than one user go through and they'll go ahead and do 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, then 0.5, and then they're done.
Yeah,
You're not done. You go right back to 1 again and run it again. I've done it 2 or 3 times. After you get a feel for it, you can kind of get away with it.
I don't know. I still do 4 as a habit, just so I know. I mean, maybe I take it too far, but I just hate having to redo everything.
Yeah. Well, and this is true for the advanced firmware too. Now, the advanced firmware introduces this
9 points, right?
Yeah, 9 points into it. And what they're not taking into consideration is they're jumping right into, okay, wherever their bed is at, they're jumping right into doing the mesh bed leveling without ever having doing the form,
on the initial level,
doing the initial level first, and you can't do that. I've had some people that machines that were sent to me, Earl, I can't get this thing level at all. Can you see what's wrong with it? Blah blah blah. People bringing me machines, and say for just kind of roundabout, area, the back spring was completely uncompressed. The one on the right was like almost cranked all the way down, and this front corner was almost all the way cranked down, and they were almost relying on the diagonal to actually, the tightness of these 2 points was actually taking care of most of their bed level. But whenever the prints swung way out from one corner to the other, that's when things went crazy. Yeah, exactly, Taranock.
What's going
Point.
on, Roxas?
Yeah, welcome to the other people that are showing up here. We've just been kind of rolling along and shooting the shit with all this stuff. But again, to iterate, you got to start out with your springs compressed from the get go. If um, where your Z sensor is at, if it's allowing little to no compression right at zero, you got to address that first. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting just the normal vibration of the printer. Over time, it's going to loosen up. And when you go through and start making adjustments, um, don't make wild adjustments in each corner. I've seen people spin the knobs like 2 or 3 turns while making adjustments. Usually a quarter or half a turn is sufficient to give you a very noticeable increment. So to recap, if you're using the advanced firmware and mesh bed leveling to address the little bit of waviness that you might find in uh, some of your beds, you got to go back to the beginning, the basics, and you got to do the regular, uh,
The basic level. You
the
do the
base.
basic first leveling you need to do first before you even touch the advanced firmware.
Yep, basic level first, and then consider going towards the advanced after that. And
And do it at least 3 to 4 times.
yeah,
The
Adhe-
basic level at least 3 to 4 times to make sure you got it right.
adhesion um, kind of comes into play with this as well. Um, Once you're relatively close, your slicer settings, your first layer lay that you're putting down, and everything like that can compensate for a pretty good amount of your bed being off to begin with. Um, I'll probably say just about every bed that I've got out there in the lab over there um, is probably off by maybe 10 thousandths, 10, 15 thousandths, give or take. And but that's still not enough to affect the build plate adhesion with the parts. Case point, the material that you use can have a an effect on the reliability of your print sticking and your first layer adhesion. The composite material that the default artillery beds are coming with now, um, they're really prone to ambient temperature swings, drafts, and things like that. You can get away with it just leaving it stock and factory with a little bit of glue stick. Some people opt or choose to use hairspray and things like that. Um, I try to avoid using anything if I can help it at all. Let me swing back out here real quick. You won't be able to see it that well, but on the left printer there, I'm printing uh, one of the skinny, thin lids. I had somebody order a orange one. Why they wanted orange, I have no idea. But that's a little skinny 1/8 of an inch lid that is standing up. There's nothing on that bed holding it down. It's just the material that I'm using, and that's the broken record PEI sheet that I try talking everybody into getting. Taz just recently, I just converted him here recently to it.
As far as springs go, you shouldn't have to replace them that often. I did upgrade. The artillery comes with upgraded springs already. I actually went one more with a thicker set, and they're the blue ones. I can't think of what the exact measurements are in them, but they're a little bit more stiff. And I put them on both my printers because I like them better.
Some people prefer to use hairspray. I'm not a fan of it. I've got my opinions on it. I
I think
prefer
it's okay.
I prefer water washable stuff. Um, I use a the purple glue stick, but instead of just trying to run a glue stick across the whole bed and try to make a mess with it, I mix up the glue stick with water into a brush-on solution. That way, I don't have any streaks in the bottom of the print. I can actually cover the whole bed if I need to, just using a foam or a makeup brush, dipping that stuff into it. Roxas, the silicone spacers are okay for the short term.
I'm not a
Um,
fan.
Silicone over time is going to, after going through repeated heat cycles, it's going to shrink a little bit. And they don't always shrink at the same rate or at the same point. Um, the other thing too is all you're doing with the silicone spacers is out the door, you are basically starting with an adjustment which is exactly the same as compressing all four of your springs the same amount.
I mean, I think those are functional on something like a Core XY machine where your bed isn't really shifting back and forth. It's going to be a stationary drop. But when a bed's doing this, I don't think the silicone's that beneficial because you need a little bit of slop to make up for the inertia, at least in my mind.
Well, Maniac, you mentioned upgrading your part fan. The printers you're looking at in the screen right there, that's an upgrade too that I did. Those are 5015 fans and a dual duct. Um, I put those on there. I only have to run the fans optimally ever at most 50%. So you're probably going to be, I don't know exactly what fan shroud you're using or which fans you're using, but you're in the right direction if you think it was cooling stuff down too much. Taranac brings up something too. Um, the the smell. Growing up as a young kid, I had a mom that drugged me as a kid to the hair salon where it was ran out of a lady's home, and at any given point in time, there was about 5 or 6 old biddies in there getting their hair done under the big bumblebee hair dryers and things like that, and the place reeked of hairspray, and that's just something I've never been able to get past, and I've never been able to consider myself enjoying it. So, yeah, Roman, the glue stick, the Barney blood, that's kind of my happy little coined phrase for it that I enjoy. You know, it kind of throws some of the liberals off the deep end when I say that. Um, the Barney blood, I never had to alter or change, doing it with that because it's water washable. And a couple of the streams I've done where I've taken prints off, for people to see what I'm doing and stuff. It's wipe on and wipe off. It's done in just a few minutes. Um, some of you people that are having trouble with adhesion, this kind of brings another thing to mind, something that does happen. People aren't cleaning their beds the way they should between prints. Every print. Quit being lazy. And, just, and even over time, especially with these composite beds, I started talking about this the other night and we got sidetracked. The oils on your fingers and your hands, or whatever else it is that you touch the bed with, we won't go there. Um, the oils on your hands, that stuff kind of starts to build up a coating after a while, and even if you're cleaning it with alcohol, it doesn't always get it all off. Kind of picture or liken it to the seasoning that happens on a frying pan. Over time, that stuff gets hard. It gets almost forms like an additional membrane that is just like a not or just like a cast iron pan or a frying pan. It becomes nonstick. Your bed ends up the same way. These composite beds aren't any different than a regular glass bed in the respect that you can also use acetone to really deep clean it. The bed material that you're looking at right there, that's my favorite PEI material that I always push everybody towards. Without fail, the printers are typically running 5, 6, 7 days a week. IPA alcohol cleaning between every single print, and once a week they get the once over with acetone on a cold bed. The composite, I've got a couple of machines in here that I've been working with now that have the composite bed on them, and I've been purposely attacking those beds with acetone. I got a refurb in, and I had to, hey Bolos, I got a refurb in that the bed was so frickin' dirty. It was like spoogey. I'll just leave it at that. It was a spoogey, and it scared me half to death. It's like, what the hell did the person do to this printer? I had to give it a real deep cleaning with acetone to get whatever it was that was stuck to it off. But afterwards, it went right back to Bolus. It's only kind of a different shirt. Hey, I ordered a few more shirts just for you that'll be coming in this week. So I just have a tire that I prefer wearing for my streams as a what do you want to call it? Not necessarily a label, as a brand. Yeah, as Terranox said, baking it on.
Yeah, I'm good, Bolos. I hope you're doing well.
Well, there's an argument out there. You get people that, and I'm going to shoot a myth right out of the sky. People say, well, you can't use acetone on PEI. Bullshit. If that were the case, I've got sheets that have been on printers for 5 years and cleaned up with acetone. If that was truly the case, I think I'd know by now if it was going to have an effect on it. There are shittier versions that I do not consider true PEI out there that are being sold as PEI, though. There are some almost clear, practically clear sheets. PEI by nature kind of has a yellow or an amber color to it. It's not clear or it's not see-through. If it's clear or see-through, it's not real PEI. But I don't know. PEI by nature, if you go to Who Made It, DuPont, if you go to Who Made It, it's a chemically or a chemical resistant material for industrial applications. It's made to be chemically resistant. So hey Bullis, you see you changed your nozzle today. How did she feel about it?
Yes, the Gizmo Dork stuff is legit.
Yes, that's the stuff that I push all the time. Speaking of which, bringing Gizmo Dorks up too, I talk with them on a semi-regular basis. I'm getting a discount for channel users that anybody can use on their website if in the event that they're out on Amazon. You should just be able to use on their website. I'm going to put that in the chat real quick.
Hey, Tracy.
Yeah, if you just use 3D Nexus, all uppercase, on their website, they'll give you a running discount on your order from their website directly. They did that for us. Bullets, I never have. But I've never calibrated my flow rate on any of the printers here, anyways.
Well, that seems to be the big tell everybody new to change their flow rates and all that stuff. I don't know why that's come into play a lot, but
Well, this goes back to I don't want to blanket term. I don't want to blanket term Z banding because some of the layer issues that I've seen people call Z banding isn't really Z banding at all. It's flow, and a lot of times the correction for that starts with checking the tension on your filament.
yep.
I've had more than one customer printer go completely fixed. You know, you end up with those shit. Here, let me pull one up. Just take a second. I think I got it in here. Oh, that's not even going to be a big enough picture to show you guys. Yeah. Well, yeah. For those concerned, you guys know exactly what we're talking about when we bring up. Let me get that up here.
Can't get rid of that cursor off of my screen.
Oh, the fly.
Yes, the damn fly keeps coming around.
Okay, okay, I'll get it off. There we go. Shouldn't bother you anymore. Yeah, exactly, Taranak. Like I said, a real PEI, it's a material that was created to be chemical resistant to begin with, but somewhere along the line, and I don't know where that started, I'll almost assume that somebody brought up, got a hold of some shitty fake PEI, just like you can get the fake build tack stuff out of wherever, and melted or softened. Now, under heat, PEI, especially thin stuff, under high heat, its chemical resistance drops. I used to have a set of tables that showed if you heat that stuff up to higher bed temperatures, yeah, you can soften it. Oh, Taz had to show off his new toy.
Just had to check on it and see how it was doing.
You can turn around too.
No, I can't because it's in the other room.
Oh! I thought you just had it behind you or something.
No,
Yeah.
I get it in a more open area than my office. That stuff does stink.
Which, okay, back, just finishing up with this bed adhesion thing. We're getting close to an hour on this subject, and uh, uh, the bed flatness, bed adhesion, bed leveling, and everything like that. You can level the beds stock. You can do just a few small things. You don't need to add a bunch of hardware. You don't have to do a bunch of crazy stuff. You can get it to work, and you can get it to work fine and never think twice about it after. Um, uh, Artillery is looking at. I just brought up with them today as a kind of a reminder, options, or different approaches to the beds. Earlier today, a user was asking about changing bed materials and things like that. And for some of the crazy beds that are out there, uh, I'll use the TiVo company as an example. I got a couple of TiVos sent to me, and the glass beds cracked practically right out the door. Um, as a direct replacement, I ordered in machined aluminum plates, which it isn't any different from what you can have done with these artillery printers here. They're simple 305 millimeter or 12 inch by 12 inch aluminum 6061 plates for about 10-15 bucks. Drill the holes yourself, and you're good to go. The uh, proper thing that you want to add with that puts you in a position to put a really awesome bed material on it, like the PEI. Roxas, that's going to have some variables there. I've seen some real shitty aluminum plate replacements that people got that are too thin. The Wanhao printers are really good for that. They have these unnecessarily thin stock plates that they supply with their printers. They warp worse than the glass does.
Switching to an aftermarket nozzle, you shouldn't have to adjust your E-steps as long as you already had it set. You should just be able to change your settings in your slicer, and it should be fine, unless you're having issues. But 9 times out of 10, you should be able to run it flat out just by making the adjustment in your slicer.
I've gone between when I've swapped between running glow in the dark filament and carbon fiber back to regular PLA and then back again. I've used three different brand nozzles, which technically means machined and engineered by three different companies. I've never had to change or alter those. Yeah, Roxas, one thing to watch for is uh, when you install the bed, just watch what happens after you heat it up for the first couple of times. The glass
Just
that
just heat cycle your damn bed flat out before you even get started. Run through the heat cycling process of what I've discussed a million times in different forums and what have you. Heat cycle it, and you won't have an issue. It's not gonna bind them. It's gonna be more or less adjusted to the hot and cold after you get it all set up. I mean, like I said, it doesn't take much. ADC for about 3 or 4 minutes, let it cool. ADC, another 3 or 4 minutes, let it cool. Put it down to about where you're going to start leveling it at 60 degrees Celsius and do your actual level with it. It should be stay pretty much flat by then.
I will be right back. My WeChat is pinging me here. It might be some good news for you guys too. Hang on here.
WeChat. Is it WeChat as in we? WeChat? Or is it WeChat? That's what I want to know.
It's been both, actually. It depends on who I'm talking to.
It's a wee little chat. Yes, this is a new image, Bolos. I have no room to explain what it is yet. He's putting it there so you can salivate over it for a while. I suppose. Yes, Taz in space. You okay?
Just taking my quiz.
Sorry?
Learning about sexually transmitted diseases.
That's always fun. I don't think you have to worry about that, but it's okay.
No.
I think he's promising surprises and never delivers. Like everything else, the surprises rely on somebody else's participation, and sometimes it takes time. You get the 50-15 fan? I haven't done it yet because I still like the way mine's set up on my printers, but I'm stubborn that way, so I know what that is now.
What is it?
That's my GoPro camera being a jerk. It means it's filled the SD card.
Oh.
You have to set Cure up properly to let it know you have the full size of your bed. So you need to tell the machine settings. I make them 310 by 310 by 400. So that way I can use the whole build plate. Just remember, if you do that, try not to use like that. I'm trying to think what the hell you call it. Yeah, remember that, if you have the purge lines, you better pull them up if you're going over those, because that'll get into your print. And then don't put a whatever you call it around it. I don't put any like adhesion on my bed. I don't put like a raft or the other stuff. No, that's it. Brim. Thank you. I couldn't think of the name of it. No brim. And then so I have to remember, because I do a double purge line on mine when I start off, and if I forget and I got a part that exceeds to the maximum edge of the bed, I have to remember to pull that off before I start actually making that print, or you're going to run into it. But yeah, I turn off the brim. I turn off all that stuff unless I really need it. The alternative is actually let me grab one for you to show you, because it's a picture frame clip. Give me 1 second. I got a box of them.
Oh, the Swiss clips.
So what I use is these kind of clips. They work rather well, and then they're not getting in the way. So you actually can use all of your bed, where the
I'll
binder
get your
clips
bigger screen up here in a sec, Taz.
Let me see if I actually have the link for it. I used to have the link.
Go back here. Taz probably got the same thing I do here. These guys.
No, mine are actually different. I got picture frame clips.
Yeah, these are made by, E3D is not the only one that has them. They're called Swiss clips.
Yeah, mine are actually shorter.
Oh, you digging yours up too?
Yeah.
Well, I saw the picture frame clips and I always wondered what they looked like up close. So if you happen to find one of yours, did you throw it up on the screen already?
Yeah, Here, I'll put it up again.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same. That's pretty much the same thing.
But it's got the smaller throw on the bottom.
Right.
So, whoop. My left hand isn't that great, sorry. But it's got the smaller clip. It's hard for me to get a view on what I'm showing because it's such a delay. Sorry. I can't tell if I'm making it into the frame or not. But the links, I put the link in for you, so it's there. But I like those, and they hold on really well, really secure. Just as good as the butterfly clips, in my opinion. But then you have the smaller lip, so you're not digging into your build space to hold something together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just threw a link up for the E3D Online Swiss clips too. Now I got them. I got them for like 7 cents a piece, so I bought like 100 of them.
I mean, these were what? I mean, it was $4.81 for 30 of them.
Yeah. Well, when I was using a lot of on my Wanhao printers, when I was using a lot of borosilicate glass,
Yeah,
on them. Now I would take the borosilicate glass and I would buy the thin PEI and drop that down on top of the glass, but still ran into the issue or the problem of needing to hold that glass down on the bed, and that's kind of where those clips came into place.
right. Yeah, because I started off with the enders because I had that stupid build plate that they give you. That magnetic, this thing. And then they have a piece of magnet on there. And I want to pulling that all off and putting a regular piece of glass down originally. Now I have to go out and buy more PEI sheets, but
Is
eventually.
is that the magnetic sheet from Creality that you just
Yeah.
had there?
That's the original one, yeah.
Angus did a video. I don't know. God, it might be going on almost 2 years now. Using the magnetic signs
Yeah.
that you can buy for
Next to nothing.
yeah, and the plastic that is on those magnetic signs is pretty much the same stuff that BuildTac is. It's like almost exactly the same stuff.
Well, yeah, because it has to be because you're putting those signs on your car and they're an extreme elements, so you want the adhesion to stay, so that they use the same, pretty much the similar stuff.
Okay,
And you can buy it by the roll pretty cheap.
I'm going to shut that thing off. I'll be right back.
Okay. Did you shut down the stream too, or? That's weird. I'm not 100% sure we're still live. Let's check YouTube. Or did I lose network? Okay, he says I'm still live, so that's cool. I'm not seeing it on my end on Twitch, so I don't know. I don't know what happened. But thanks, Bolas. How to wear?
Out of the bin, I got real worried because it's cold. I don't want to hurt them. I like them too.
Well, that's fine. Do you see me? I don't see me. I got a network error for some dumbass reason.
Yeah, you're still here.
No, I know. I don't know why it did that. Now when I reload it, I lose all my fucking, all my text. Then I gotta watch a commercial again.
I know you guys are going to have a cup of coffee for me for a minute here still. I am multitasking.
There we go. Now I can see the stream is still going, but I lost all my messages. Oh well. I will persevere and move on. And my dog will be annoying.
Hey, doggy.
It's starting to get to where I can see something going on with my new printer. So
Hey, Bullis. I see what you typed there. Why aren't I better organized? Well, okay. Bullis is complaining, so I'm not going to bother with the one bit of news I was digging up with an image. So you can blame him for
you're gonna
that.
blame it on Bulos and then
Yep.
screw everybody else that's been patiently waiting. That's not right. The hate mail he's gonna get now. See what you did?
Well, a little bit of it has to do with waiting on. Yeah. There's the monkey. Seriously though, no, I've been fighting with a couple of companies. I ordered more cameras, and I've been fighting with a company that has been claiming, oh yeah, they're on their way, they're on their way, they're on their way. And I've got so much other stuff lined up that I want to be able to do while we're live and everything like that. So I get these other cameras up. I won't actually, I mean, you'll see me bouncing. I won't have to throw my coffee up anymore. You'll actually be able to see me run back and forth between different cams. Why is me buying cameras news for you? Have you priced cameras lately?
Well, I think what he's asking is you've been promising surprises and have yet to deliver any information on these, is what he's been saying.
Well, all the other surprises I forked out before he showed up, and as soon as he showed up, I deleted all the shit.
I'm not telling him that.
Well, I'm not going to tell him either. Oh. No, as soon as artillery starts showing up a little bit more on a regular basis, they're transitioning right now. They're moving into some new. they're transitioning into some new offices, and one of the rooms they're throwing in the office there is a video room, so they can participate in the live streams with us here.
Cool.
How that applies to Bullos in particular, it doesn't apply at all. But me having to bounce back and forth, I will not have any social media on the studio computers. You know, first couple of streams that we did that were running into the 3 and 4 hour streams, if somebody doesn't get approved on the Facebook groups, especially like right away, they get cranky, they get upset, and eventually I start getting some PMs. It's like, can you like approve me? Can you approve me? And I won't do it on my phone, so.
As far as cameras, Len, two of them I got really nice. I got the old ones I use for streaming that are Logitech's, and then I got a Microsoft Live Cam on another one, and then I got a cheap ass whatever, a USB 2 cam that I picked up. So it really doesn't matter unless you want really, really quality images. I mean, you don't have to go really expensive. You're monitoring a print. If you want to record it, I mean, you can always use a better camera later on, but for basic use, get a cheap one. It isn't worth spending big money on it.
My thing, I guess, I like having, well, any videos that I do, do for myself for archival purposes and things like that. And I like HD stuff. Um, just for keeping keeping an eye on stuff and everything like that. You can uh, use
I mean,
pie cameras.
I got complained about my resolution on this cam by Earl, so he didn't like the way it was coming out.
It's not the resolution; it's the contrast. Because the
It's a
Elegoo,
little of both on that camera because it's like one of the cheapest ones I have in my arsenal.
the Elegoo Mars is like a awesome printer. It's got like the awesome black uh, coloring.
Mine isn't black. Mine's gray.
Really?
Yeah, I bought the gray one.
Okay, well, that shoots it. Okay, I was expecting it to be black. That's why it looks washed out to me then.
I was like, it isn't that bad, but I was like, okay. It was like, no, it's gray. It's supposed to be that color. I mean, the red isn't as vibrant as it could be, but
Hey, Maniac, thanks for showing up.
see you, Maniac.
You get a chance. We're going to do a daily on Wednesday night, probably around the same time. There's a schedule on the Twitch channel. And also our weekly live stream this Friday, subject to be announced. That's where it gets fun and crazy and usually rolls on for about 2 or 3 hours or more. Plus, there's an after hours club where no holds barred. So if you got on our shit list during the week for whatever reason, we'll probably end up dropping bombs there. Speaking of which, I had mentioned earlier the stream announcement and everything like that. Okay, some of the surprises, it's just an update, Bolos. The GUI updates for all of the advanced firmware, the standard advanced firmware GUI, the D-Blue, and the Skittles GUIs are all going to be retroactively carried over to the factory firmware this week. I'm going to release those Friday. So all of you factory firmware people who don't want to mess with updating your board firmware or anything like that, but you want a different or a nice look to it, you'll be able to just drop it on an SD card and turn your printer on and it'll go right in. Plus, I'll have a sneak peek at a couple more of the GUIs that are in the works too. And I plan on probably pre-releasing those next week. So, which we're already well over an hour into it, and it's just supposed to be a daily. The other thing I brought up was resin printing. I've always been into resin printing as well, not just FDM or anything like that. And I'm carrying over from my studio site to, yeah, exactly. Carrying over to my studio, or from my studio site, all of the resin printing, casting information, as well as Artillery has quietly mentioned, Tracy did a few weeks back, that they are probably looking at getting into the resin printer game. Don't ask for when, because I can't tell you, even if I knew. Yeah. A lot of you people that are getting into this, and this is both directly and indirectly related to the Nexus website. Now that I've got all the FDM stuff all straightened out for everybody, I can concentrate on bringing over the 3D modeling and the resin printing stuff. A lot of useful information, a lot of hints, tricks, tips, as well as I know quite a few of the 3D modeling artists that are out there that are pretty mainstream. I'm going to be bringing them into some of the live shows, as well as kind of creating a weekly source for you guys to actually dive into getting information and running through questions and answers and articles and things like that relating to the 3D resin printing. Because that's the next step. We're FDM wise, I won't say that we're at our limits with FDM printers, but there's just a level of detail that FDM is never going to be able to achieve. That's just the truth. IPA is
Isopropyl alcohol.
Thank you, sir.
It's just a quick way of saying it. Or it could be a good beer, depending on where you're at. Is there anything else you can use to clean off besides isopropyl alcohol?
Vodka.
You know, I'm just not big on wasting my own vodka, but okay.
Well, but people, you know, right now, considering the whole the whole virus thing going on right now, and everybody's buying up alcohol. I know in the resin printing community, people are crapping their pants because we go through a lot more of that stuff than you'd ever hope to consider using with your FDM printers.
I just wondered if there was another, like, something easy to get that you could clean with that would be just as safe. Yeah, I don't think I'd use methylated spirits. It don't sound like a good idea.
Well, was he asking specifically with resin or with FDM? Because on PEI sheets and stuff like that, with FDM, on, you know, just cleaning the beds and stuff like that, I don't see why you couldn't use the mentholated spirits. But no, with resins, no. That's...
I was asking about the resins because
no.
I don't have a lot of IPA left, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that can react with the resins, and they're not always open with exactly what the formulas are from one company or one brand to the next. Speaking of which, yeah, with with resin, you can use Simple Green all day. Uncle Jesse, I think,
yeah,
did a video that he's got a couple of different. There's another brand of a cleaner that's out there that's even cheaper than Simple Green that you can use that works real good. That purple stuff, what do they call it? Kaboom or something like that too? That stuff works okay. I haven't fully tested all of this stuff either because I've always got IPA around here, and I've always got gallons of Simple Green for other things that we do. Yeah, Roman, it might be the Zep cleaner.
Fabuloso. I actually have that, so I might try it. Because I'm looking at my alcohol availability, and it's getting kind of low.
Well, somebody was.
But I had to print something because I just got it.
Somebody was telling me that they were able to get alcohol at Home Depot or Lowe's.
Yeah, but it's ridiculously priced right now.
Oh.
I mean, I could order it from Amazon too, but it's just stupid priced.
I don't know, maybe I considered myself lucky. You know, we got a few gallons of it here, and we just don't go through it. And once I changed over to the non-get-you-high stuff for cleaning resin prints and things like that, I hardly use that much of it all. Yeah, I was one of the other people I'm going to have on the show here is Charlie from
the Chocolate Factory?
No, Monicure 3D. He's an Aussie guy that has been around since the beginning of mainstream, Wanhao D7 early days. For you people that have gotten into resin printing and things like that, he's a resin manufacturer, as well as he's also got some really good exotic filaments and things like that too. Yeah, we'll have a cleaner throwdown. That's something we'll touch base with on some of the streams that are going to be directed more towards resin printing and stuff like that. Because there's a lot of people I know in the artillery groups have the same interests and desires and things like that. And given the fact that, like I said, artillery has mentioned a resin printer in their future, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be wanting to dive into that too. So trying to get some stuff taken care of ahead of time.
That's why I wanted something to compare it to. That's why I got one. So
yeah, right now, for anybody that's wondering, as far as throwdowns go and everything like that, the good place to start is the Elegoo Mars. You can't go wrong. And if you ask me about the pros and cons of some of the other machines that are out there, I've looked at a lot of them internally. I've worked with and dealt with, of course, in the early days, Form Labs. Not many people can afford those, nor have the desire to spend that much money on them. The Wanhao D7 is the predecessor to just about all the printers that you guys are looking at right now these days. There's Creality's got their resin printer out on the market that I'm not really a fan of in comparison. Frozen just came out with a new Sonic that it's like only $200. And it's an awesome printer, and it uses a slightly different technology. Without digging too deep into it, it's basically using a black and white LCD as opposed to most of the other resin printers that you guys are looking at or have access to right now are using a color LCD. The difference between the two is the black and white LCDs last a lot longer. And you can also get much faster print times. So we'll dive into that later. Bullis, there's a couple of really cool tools that you can dig up. I think they even got them on Amazon for fusing rolls of filaments together. It's like a little handheld, I don't want to call it a crimper, but for
like a little torch, isn't it?
It's like a little crimper that just holds the two pieces together, and I've seen an electric one actually that you just press a button and it fuses the two together, and then there's another one that you just pass a heated spatula between the two.
I don't know. I keep it off to the side until I need some for just maybe for some lettering or whatever. I know it's gonna be a small amount, so I just keep the small amount off to the side for when I'm doing color changes or switches.
Be right back. This is an honest to goodness nature call this time. Can't wait. Sorry, Bullis. Just for the heck of it, in between here, I'm going to throw the leaderboard up so you guys can get a quick peek of where everybody's at right now. Shows about the last 10 or 12 followers of the channel. Last range of donations that people drop some tips on for. I should be getting some of our merch in here sometime in the next week too, and I think I'm probably going to give a couple of those away through a giveaway here. Taz just got some of his in too, I think you were saying the other day.
Yeah, I got my sticker.
Oh, is that the only thing you got?
I'm waiting on my shirt, my coffee cup, and my sweatshirt.
How long
Oh,
ago?
my mouse pad too. Yeah, I forgot I got a mouse pad too.
How long ago did you order that stuff?
Uh, like around May 4th, May 3rd, May 4th.
Wow, it's taken that long.
Well, I mean, if you look at the way things are for everything all of a sudden,
No.
it's backed up on people shipping things. I mean, we're relying on it way more than we usually have to. So, 3D Nexus brush. Any advice for PETG? So, I stay around 240C with most of my PETG. I do about 80C on the bed. My retraction's at 2 at 25 millimeters a second, and my cooling is at 30%. That's the advice I'd give you. I'd also put something down on my bed just to have a layer between my actual bed and the PETG because you don't want it to get too sticky and then lift off your surface. So that would be the other suggestion. A few people don't like it here, but hairspray works. Just don't go crazy with it. Just a little dusting, and don't get it while your fans are on. That's kind of the best practice to not have everything powered up and running. Just do a quick little spray of it while your fans are off. Don't get it all over your, printer. Just a little on the section of the plate where you're going to print. You can also use just regular glue stick works. Glue stick with some water. Or the purple blood, Barney's blood. So that's a glue stick and water. Well, it can be hot or cold but most of those options. I usually just leave my bed warm up because I want my whole bed to get evenly heated especially when I'm printing something with like PETG or ABS. I want it to get as much time heating up that bed as possible. So I make sure it's not just measuring the center; it's getting out, radiating out to the edges where I'm printing. What in the world are you doing?
Hand feeding my Yorkie.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't like the creepy one. He spit it out.
Oh, you try giving him stuff that he doesn't want to eat?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got like some sort of cranberry attached. He hates it.
Yeah, he don't like fruits.
Nope, he spits it out.
As long as you're not giggling at me being on here.
No.
That's fine.
That's what he gets for not eating himself. And expecting you to hand feed him.
Everyone's saying hello.
Hi.
Yeah, did you learn how to print so I can bring you out with me? I have somebody else to cut me off.
Well, you know, I did a show with you. You cut me off. I can never
Get him. How far along is your resin print, Az?
It's hard to say. It looks like it's almost done.
Doesn't look like anything to me.
Oh, one thing you'll want to get to kind of help out is
it's upside down, number one.
You know the dental mirrors?
Yeah.
You get those for a couple of bucks on Amazon. Yeah, that's the other thing on the Nexus. I'll have the same type of what do I need for doing this gig lists. A lot of people say, "Oh, I can't tell where my print's at, or I can't tell how much longer it's got to go," or they just sometimes for adhesion purposes or making sure their prints are coming out cool.
Tell me what the percentage says on the screen, please, because I can't read it from here.
The dental mirrors are great for sneaking in right underneath the build plate while it's up and kind of taking a look and seeing where your print's at.
It's a little bar that runs across in the graph. It's at 69%. I always tell you 68 and I owe you one, but that's just me.
What upgrades out of the box do I have to make on my resin printer that isn't even released yet? Resin printers, if they're made well, you shouldn't have to do hardly anything at all. Not anymore. Probably.
Oh my God, this was the easiest printer to set up that I ever had.
One of the things that people will encounter, and this is true for any of the resin printers that are out there, you can benefit slightly. Most of the print beds that come with the resin printers are a smooth aluminum plate. Scuff those babies up a little bit.
The neighbors started. Sorry.
The neighbor started?
Yes, the neighbor dogs decided it.
Oh.
Sorry. They started barking across the back.
Yeah, the learning curve,
of course.
The learning curve with the resin printers is going to be a lot smaller than what you had to deal with FDM. 4/5 of the problems that you deal with or have to deal with FDM just aren't there with the resin printers. Not now.
Well, I gotta admit, I didn't scuff the plate up. I forgot.
No, and most people won't have to. Somewhere around 220, 300 grit is fine. But don't do it unless you start running into adhesion issues. Something else to take into consideration, this is what happens even with aluminum. If you zoom in on even the aluminum beds, the aluminum plates that come with these machines, you'll notice that they're porous. Cured resin over time, just like that frying pan issue and the beds that I was bringing up earlier, you start to develop a thin membrane or a film that ends up sticking to the build plates, and over time you'll find that you might get prints that start lifting off during the print process and things like that. And it doesn't take much. If you've had to scuff your build plate up a little bit, say after, and I can only go by how we were using the resin printers here when we were full bore all the time. I don't know, every couple of weeks or every few weeks, you just lay a piece of 220 or 300 grit sandpaper flat on a flat surface and just run it across it 5 or 10 times, and that's all you got to do.
That's the light I'm using to cure Bolos. I put it in there for you.
No, the FEP sheets Bolos are they just get cloudy over time. They degrade faster because of people's maintenance routines. The thing, you should treat the FEP film like the best pair of glasses that you ever purchased. And some people are better at taking care of their glasses than others. Treat it like a camera lens. Just hey, consider it like you went out and just bought a $2,000 Nikon. You don't want to use a paper towel or which is abrasive, by the way. You don't want to use paper towel or cheap cloths of any kind on your FEP film. Get a hold of some microcloths and use that to clean them with. Yeah, damage usually comes from your prints sticking to the FEP sheet, which can happen from time to time, and that the likelihood of that happening will increase over time if you have poor maintenance habits. Using paper towel on a regular basis to clean your FEP sheets, you're putting micro scratches on there that will increase the likelihood that that first layer of cured resin is going to stick to it. You'll get little cured bits of prints sometimes that'll fall off into the resin. So you want to make sure that between every print, is something you got to get just into the habit of doing, going through and filtering out the leftover resin before you start another print, because all it takes is just a little bit sitting in the bottom of your vat with resin in it or floating around in there, and when you go back down to either re-level your bed or begin a print, if there's even the smallest little bit of resin sitting underneath there, you've done two things. You have risked puncturing the FEP film, which isn't as likely as cracking your LCD, which that can be a $30, $50, $80, $100 replacement, and no printing until you get that done. So. Some people have sent me a couple of whispers, and I've even got some PMs through Facebook on it when I checked last. They're inquiring about this bed. In the near future, I'm not in any rush to get it out into the market right now, but a user on the forums had been asking about it earlier today, and I figured I'd just throw a teaser image up. Basically, that plate that you're looking at right there is a machined, anodized, or powder coated replacement bed for the artillery sidewinders and the Genius. The edges are all polished and radiused. It'll come with either blank, in other words, just the aluminum bed itself, or a full thickness PEI, not a thin piece of garbage, as well as a magnetic option for those that want to use the magnetic flex plates out there that I don't particularly recommend, but I'm giving people that option if they want that. Artillery is also going to be looking at possibly this as an option in the future. That's something we're talking about right now, so we'll see. Cost-wise, that's also been another question right there. To be announced, but a lot cheaper than you think.
As far as the double-sided flex plate, I've heard some good and I've heard some bad. Some people had good success with it, and a few others have just destroyed that little PEI thin layer that's on that sheet.
Just
and
like
they're not happy they have to replace it.
just like any of the other flex plates that are out there, the article I mentioned last week that I'm just finishing up and should be out in the next couple of days, I kind of touch base on the pros and cons behind those, and to me there's way too many cons of any of the flex plate systems. I'm just not particularly fond of them. I like having a build surface that I can put on once and forget about it. And after the longest running build surfaces that I've got on printers here are going on 5 years, I can guarantee you there isn't a flex plate on the market that you're not going to have to replace over a period of time. The issues with them, regardless of the brand, is the PEI that is on them are thin. The repeated action of taking those off of the bed, flexing them to pop parts off and things like that, they can get brittle. Not the actual steel sheet itself, but the PEI itself can get brittle. if you make the mistake of not using a good release agent, even on those PEI sheets, with something like PETG or another sticky filament, you will peel that PEI up off of. And good observation here, even the godlike Prusa flex plates
Like,
have got some issues with the PEI peeling and flaking and things like that over time. So to me, they're consumable, and to me, it's not waste, or it's a waste of money in my view. Having a print surface that you can take off of the bed to remove prints, I don't have any problem taking prints off of my bed, but at the same time, I never have any problem getting stuff to stick either. So what good is a flex plate? The flex plates, even though they're spring steel, there are different qualities or grades of spring steel. And if you take in repeatedly over time, especially if you're doing production and things like that, flexing and bending those over time, you can introduce warping and bends and bows in the beds. That's something, again, that I just can't tolerate. Not when there's already a good solution out there that works and doesn't give you any of that shit. Hey, we can see your prints there, Taz. Zero, the image that I was just showing, flatter than the stock bed. Yeah, they're machined and perfectly flat. I'm also working with a company at potentially looking at a much lighter weight. If you get the when you're designing these build plates and things like that, if you get the right thickness, there's a point where you can make the plate too thick. A lot of people that make their own plates, they mistakenly get like a 5-6 millimeter thick plate, and you don't need that to retain flatness. You can also go, like the Wanhao plates come stock on some of their beds, you can also go too thin. I feel where I'm at with these, I'm just right with it because I've got a fair number of printers under my belt that I've done these beds for. So yeah, Len, the build surface is to some degree preference. I know people that have been using the stock glass plate, even going back as far as the version 1s and version 2, and have never changed. And if it's working out great for you and everything like that, there's absolutely no reason to change. The composite plates, they seem to be a bit more difficult for people to dial in, and they are prone, and this is just science, they are prone to just a little bit more issue and fluctuation. For me, in our offices and our labs here, the temperatures fluctuate on a pretty wild basis, depending on what time of the year it is. And during prints, I will not tolerate in any way, shape, or form a print lifting, the edges lifting up that everybody's seen from time to time, or prints popping off mid-print. Won't do it. That's why I've developed the opinion and direction that I've tried to put people in or direct people towards with the PEI system that is going on here.
yeah, I don't know. I didn't have a big issue with my glass. I had the original version 1 and version 2 glass.
The two that are on the camera right now, those are the original black, pretty beautiful glass that have the PEI on top. Part of it
Which I
too is
just recently did. So
yeah. Part of it too is I wanted to that logo rocks. Okay, the big artillery logo on those original glass bed rocks, and I wanted to preserve that because somehow I just had a feeling. I felt that it was probably either electro plated on there or uh, uh, what's that other using the plasma to electroplate. Yeah. Anyways, the logo rocks. I wanted to preserve it as well as last summer, right towards the end of the summer. Um, we had AC running pretty heavy in here, and yet out in the other portions of the shops and things like that, the temperature was kicking up like over 100 degrees. I think at its worst, it got up to like 110 out there. So as soon as the lab door opened, you get this blast of super hot, moist air come rolling through. And all it took was one print to start lifting at the edges on the glass for me. And I said, fuck it. I went to the PEI and I've never seen a lift since. So that's where I'm at with that. So we're just outside of York, Pennsylvania here, but we're in a 1800s built uh, historical building that has crap for insulation. When it even remotely gets hot outside, the rest of the shop areas and things like that kick up over 100 degrees easy. It's got a rubber roof too, so and then in the wintertime it gets cold as hell. So we have a lot of temperature fluctuation, and then like I said, in the offices we got AC running in the offices, and then dry heat going. Your ambient temperatures and things like that can affect what's going on. That's also true with your filaments. This is also the time of the year. Yeah, what Taranox said, leaks air like a sieve. I mean, it doesn't help either. We've got a 15 by 15 bay door we're up on the second level of this building. We've got a 15 by 15 bay door that, for all intents and purposes, is just a sliding barn door with air gaps around it and everything like that. So that's all the way at the extreme end, front end of the building here. So but yeah, that's the proof there. The proof of concept there is with those wild temperature swings. That'll start to affect what's going on with your prints. The humidity gets up pretty high too, and this is also classically the transition time of the year where it's starting to rain in a lot of places. And if you ever kind of kick back and watched, if you've had the time to do it over so many years, watching FDM printing especially, people's prints really start screwing up right around March, April, May.
yep,
They get a little bit better over the summertime, and then getting towards fall around October, November, they start sucking and dying off again, and then everybody goes quiet during the dead of winter.
that's another thing with people complaining about leveling, and they have to understand that ambient temperature makes a difference too.
Yes.
You might have had a perfect level and it was like, a normal temperature day, and then you get a spike in the season and all of a sudden your leveling is off and you don't understand why. It's not that anything moved, it's a matter of that your ambient temperature changed. So now your plate needs to be readjusted for that. Because when I get the weird hops here in Chicago, which is about give it 5 minutes, I have to re-level everything. So I mean, it's just it kind of you kind of have to keep an eye on what your temperatures are too. It's not that, your springs are going to compress differently in different temperatures, and your bed's going to sit differently depending on what the ambient temps are. So that shock to the system is going to make a difference. Put an enclosure around your printer. If you're going to do something like ABS, you're going to want an enclosure because you want to keep a steady temperature, because that's where ABS goes wrong. You're going to get a draft or some kind of fluctuation in temperature, and then it starts to curl and cool faster than you want it to. So that's how you get the lifting edges and everything else you get in those prints. So that's when you probably want an enclosure. PETG can be iffy if you start to try to do the whole bed. If you're trying to do that whole plate, that whole massive plate for bigger objects like that, now you're going to start wanting maybe to have an enclosure.
Who was it? Joel Nicholson. One of the mods on the artillery group. He does PET G, and he has done ABS, if I remember correctly, without an enclosure at all.
I do it too, but what I'm saying is if you're going to be doing it on a bigger scale, you probably want to keep everything you can away from it. I mean, once you start going more than a small section of your bed, now you're susceptible to whatever breeze comes across your plate. So
Yeah. I've had a couple of times. I've had PET G crack on the plate while it was printing when the AC got fired up,
right,
and you heard it. You know that scary ass cracking sound that you hear.
sounds like your glass is breaking.
Yeah,
Like, what the? Oh, okay, thank you. At least it's just a print. So I had one that sounded the whole bed shattered the one day. It just popped, and I was like,
Oh, with that guy that's singing.
yes, it's the guy that drives by that sings. Sorry.
He's like that.
Yeah, I think ASA is a bit more forgiving than ABS. You have a little more leeway with it. I like using PC too. PC works really nice, and it's fairly strong. If you get it layering right, it's actually really good stuff. I like using it.
yeah. The only thing with ASA that I'm not fond of is it stinks to holy hell.
Yeah,
If I
there is
if I
that.
if I remember without, I mean, I've used maybe just a little bit of it for testing. And if I remember correctly, ASA I think has got even more toxic fumes than ABS does. Yeah, and to date, PET G is the only filament slash a model that I printed with the FDM printer. PET G is the only stuff that I've ever cut myself on. I was working off some supports on a print, that involved me pushing my fingers through and everything like that, and my thumb went through on the part, and half of the support stayed there, and it ended up shredding my thumb up.
The resin has a strong scent. I'm not gonna lie. I was just using the rubber gloves. I didn't put the mask on because I was like tired of a mask. and it does have an odor to it. It's like, wow, it's pretty pungent, but it's not horrible. I mean, I have smelled a lot worse. So
Different brands of resins will have a little bit of a different level to them. There are some pretty stinky ones out there. Um, the one thing for you people that are asking about resins and the resin printing and things like that, don't fall under the misconception that the water washable stuff is any less smelly or safe. You treat it just as uh, at the same level, and in some cases, you should actually think more even about handling and safety with the water washable resins than you would the regular resins. Going at the regular resins, you're already primed emotionally for the fact that you're working with uh, a chemical that requires safe handling. Uh, just something being water washable on the surface will kind of give you that false sense of security that, wow, this stuff isn't so bad to work with. Not, it's actually even worse in some cases. And quality wise, I've seen some of the qualities out there with the water washable resins that I'd say are just the same as the regular ones. So there's not any added benefit to them. Um, and when it comes down to cleaning the parts after printing and things like that, you can try washing the stuff off with water, but you're going to have sticky prints when you go to UV or when you go to cure the stuff with UV after the fact. So we'll touch base with that specifically. We're going to be devoting some streams exclusively to resins and working with the different ones. Yeah, we've had some of the resins here. We've had numbers of different brands at any point in time. It's like right now there's about 30 liters of resin here right now, getting prepped up for resin season here. We've had some that hardly had any noticeable odor to them at all, to somebody who is around them on a regular basis. But to somebody who has never smelt the stuff before, I've been told that it's like, whoa. If you're susceptible to airborne odors, there are some people that can't tolerate the smell, and it aggravates things like asthma or COPD and things like that. And then other people it doesn't seem to affect at all. Point is it's a chemical just like your chemicals that you use in your house for cleaning, stuff you use in your garage, brake fluid, gasoline, oil. You got to treat it all the same. So here we're already on edge all the time because in addition to working with this stuff, we work with all sorts of adhesives, paints, sealers, stuff like that, as well as jewelry chemicals. And jewelry chemicals kick it up about another 100 more notches because that started bringing things like cyanide and things of that nature into the mix, which nobody wants to mess with. Being from the leathercraft industry as well, a lot of the dyes and oil finishes that we use contain ether, and that's always fun to play with. Yeah, the resin. If you're talking like the miniatures you get from like Games Workshop and stuff like that, that's a uh, slightly different, chemically a lot different than the resins that are printed with the 3D printers. But I know that smell you're talking about. Yeah, we're going to get into mixing the technologies up a little bit too. So how you can use your FDM printer to make improvements and make your life easier with resin printing, and vice versa. As what there are some good resins out there that, for all intents and purposes, are awesome for making fan ducts and some of the non uh, essential engineering type parts on your FDM printers that can actually make you can do some pretty cool stuff with it. Casting, metal casting, resin casting, which kind of applies towards what Bullis was mentioning with the miniatures and things like that. You can make molds with your FDM printer and make molds with your resin printer, make prototypes with your resin printer and your FDM printer that you can cast into metal, as well as cast into harder engineering resins and things like that too. So I was hoping we'd be around long enough to have your resin print finished as.
It's still a ways away.
Yeah. We're just about done. We're getting really close to that 2 hour mark. We're just about done for the evening. This is just a daily. I don't want to turn it into one of the long ass streams like usual. So at the last minute, if anybody's got any other quick questions that they want to drop in, we can try to hit those real quick. Otherwise, we're gonna shut down for the evening. We'll go back to a normal, regular scheduled daily Wednesday. That's 2 days from now, 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. I can't remember what I had the schedule set to, 10 or 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, and then our actual long ass live stream Friday, this coming Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and after hours after that, which translates into about 4.5 or 5 hours of streaming here lately. We'll go from there. Yeah, take care, Roman. Thanks for showing up. Len, yeah, get into the habit of cleaning your bed after every print, and you'll find that can hear Pippers. Oh, can you hear Molly panting in the background? Yeah, now I turned around and looked at her, so she stopped. Yeah. Yeah, when you type use, I was wondering if I should look at that at a racial racial angle or not for a second there. Len, after a print, I usually don't have to wait until the bed cools down hardly at all to pop prints off with the bed material that I use. I usually wipe it down right away while it's still hot.
Not going to hurt it.
Yeah, that's the PEI is practically indestructible. You can beat
Well, even on your standard bed, the only thing is if you're going to use the IPA, it's going to burn off fast. So you kind of want it to cool down slightly.
Yeah.
So you're not wasting a bunch of IPA trying to clean, because that's going to evaporate off really quick if it's hot. So.
Yeah, just real quick here. Just in case you're wondering when, I'll throw the bed surface up that I'm talking about that we use here. I put it on the Facebook groups all the time to save myself time of having to type links in for a lot of different things for people. There you go. And for anybody else that has a question about the bed surface that we've been talking about here, that's on the lab printers right now. Okay, folks, we're right at the 2 hour mark, and I think we're going to call it for tonight. We'll be back Wednesday, 10 or 11 p.m. Just check the schedule on Twitch, and we'll go from there. Subject and or topic to be announced, but as usual, during the dailies, as well as the actual streams on the weekends, we are more than happy and willing to take questions and answers and branch the topics and subjects off to help people out with current issues or things that they may be dealing with. So, Taz, you got anything else?
No, other than that, see you guys. Have a good one.
Yep. All right, guys. Take care. Thanks for showing up tonight. Like, follow, subscribe, hit that bell on YouTube if it's on YouTube, so you get notifications of the next and upcoming streams. Hit 3dnexus.com. Sign up there. We're going to have a stream schedule in a little bit of a grander and more expanded scale also posted on there. And I might be doing that on the... Oh, yeah. I'm sure Taz will be showing off his resin prints like crazy here pretty soon. We're going to start devoting time to that as well, too. All right. Good night, everybody. Take care.